You are listening to the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. And now your host, Caleb Turner.
Good evening, everybody listening on the Caleb Turner Talk Show, the Anchor Radio Network, March 9th, 2013 edition. It's been a beautiful last couple of days here in the British Columbia Lower Mainland area, here in our downtown Coquitlam, British Columbia studios in downtown Coquitlam. We got a great show planned for you today. We're going to talk about the NBA and the miraculous turnaround by the Lakers, the hot streak by the Heat. Get it? Hot? They're the Heat. Anyways, we'll get into the NHL and, of course, the Vancouver Canucks. But we're going to get our break in here. This is the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network.
The Vancouver Canucks take on the Minnesota Wild live tomorrow night from St. Paul, Minnesota. The puck drop will be at 5 o'clock. The full play-by-play right here on the Anchor Radio Network.
We're back live on the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. March 9th, 2013, Saturday edition, here in the evening on this beautiful March 9th. Daylight savings time not daylight saving time. Spring forward is tonight. And I'm sure everybody is looking forward to losing an hour of sleep by getting a little more daytime. It was cool. I got to play some hockey today, street hockey, and a little bit of basketball. But the days are getting longer here in the Lower Mainland, and I definitely am looking forward to the nights where you can get out there and play street hockey and play basketball and baseball until like 9:30 at night. Oh, summer nights. I love summer nights. I do definitely look forward to summer nights. The best nights are summer nights, period. You know, we have some really, really nice nights right now. But I'm definitely looking forward to the summer nights. And especially the summer nights when the Canucks are playing in the playoffs. Those are some nice summer nights. Get to watch the hockey game, go out during intermission, kick the soccer ball around, maybe throw the football around, come back in, watch the second period, go back outside in the intermission, maybe shoot some hoops, or maybe, shoot a hockey ball around. Man, looking forward to the summer. Hopefully the Canucks are playing in the playoffs in the summer. I am going to be away. In fact, I might as well go ahead and broadcast this and advertise this now. The Caleb Turner Talk Show will roll on despite me being in Uganda, West Africa. Right now, our producers are saying that, hey, why don't you go ahead and take the show to Uganda? Take the show with you to Uganda, broadcast from Uganda. We'll air it here in Coquitlam via satellite. I love the idea, so it looks like we're still going to have the Caleb Turner Talk Show despite me being away on a missions trip in Uganda, West Africa, which I am looking forward to. Towards the beginning of June will be that trip. Might as well go ahead and let everybody know. Give everybody a warning. The Caleb Turner Talk Show may be on a slight delay with me being in Uganda, so there may be a little bit of a period of time where the videos do not get uploaded. But that's okay. It's all good. We'll work it out somehow. We'll make sure that we can get this thing online. We got a great show planned for you today. We might as well go ahead and begin this right off the bat right now with the NBA. What a year it's been in the NBA. It's amazing seeing some of the teams that are right now, if the playoffs were to start right now, teams that would be in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks in the East would be in the playoffs if it started today. The Indiana Pacers would be the number 2 seed in the East if the playoffs started today. The Brooklyn Nets. It's not just far removed that they were the New Jersey Nets. They're still the Nets of New Jersey, technically, if we're going to date back to last year. It's amazing, but they're 4th. The Bulls in 5th, minus D Rose, which, they have a really, really good team despite not having Derrick Rose. Don't get me wrong. They have an absolutely incredible team without Derrick Rose. So when they get Derrick Rose back, which they are saying, experts are saying that he should be back at some point this year. When they get him back, look out. Look out, Miami. I mean, Miami's got a huge lead, 12-game lead on Chicago. So obviously Miami probably is going to win the East. But I'm talking about when you get into the playoffs. Now, is there any team that can honestly beat Miami? Is there any team? A lot of people say Oklahoma City will not be able to keep up with Miami. And I definitely agree with that statement. The Oklahoma City Thunder are not going to keep up with Miami if they have to play them again in the NBA Finals. In my eyes, and I have held to this all season, if the Lakers can get to that position in the NBA Finals, they are the most likely team to be able to keep up with Miami because of the size factor. Wade's old. So, Kobe can either guard LeBron or Wade. You got Meta, who can guard either LeBron or Wade. Nash obviously can take Chalmers. Howard and, Earl Clark or Antoine Jamison, or if they can get Kapow back by then. All these guys that have been sidelined with injuries, if the Lakers can keep this going, which we're going to touch on the Lakers later, but if they keep everything going right now, make the playoffs, go deep, somehow get past Oklahoma City. Wow. They're in the NBA Finals probably playing Miami, and they're the most likely team to be able to beat them. The Toronto Raptors are 8 games out of a playoff spot. Doesn't look like they're going to make it. It's about 19 games left on the year. So, 19 games left for Toronto. It's not going to happen. It's too bad, but it won't happen. The Raptors have a good team. I mean, don't get me wrong. And let me tell you, next year, haven't we been saying that about Toronto sports for a long time? Next year, sounds like the Raptors, it sounds like the Leafs, it sounds like TFC. Yeah. The Boston Celtics, despite not having Rajon Rondo, still look like the team with Rajon Rondo. How are the Boston Celtics 12.5 back of first, half a game back of Chicago for 5th, 2 games back of Brooklyn for 4th? How did that happen? The Atlanta Hawks, 13 back, 34-28 record, 7th place. They've kind of been slipping a little bit, but, they keep the momentum going. They're obviously going to be in the playoffs. The 8 teams right now in the East that are in the playoffs probably will all make it. It'd be bad if Milwaukee blows it and Toronto somehow squeaks in. It's just the positioning. Who's going to play who? Right now, it'd be Miami and Milwaukee. Good luck with that one, Milwaukee. Indiana and Atlanta. The Knicks and the Celtics. Oh, boy. Brooklyn and Chicago. And Brooklyn there with home court. Isn't that going to be cool? If Brooklyn can somehow hold on to their spot, they're going to get to host a playoff series. Wow. Who guessed that? The billion-dollar arena that they built there. And they're actually potentially going to get home court advantage. Wow. Moving to the West, the San Antonio Spurs. And by the way, Miami does have 17 straight wins, so unstoppable. We go back to the West. San Antonio, 48-15 record first place. They are 25-4 at home, 23-11 on the road, 11-2 against their division. They're pretty much unbeatable. Only 4 losses on home court. How can you beat that? It's almost impossible. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 46-16 in second. The Clippers at 44-20 in third with their Pacific Division lead. Has anybody seen the newest of the Lob City dunks. If you have not seen the Jamal Crawford to Blake Griffin dunk on a 2-0 fast break, you gotta YouTube it. It is definitely worth the watch. It puts dunking in a game in a different category now. You know, why does Blake Griffin not dunk in the slam dunk competition? If they can come up with those dunks during the game, boy, what could they come up with like 3 or 4 weeks of preparation for the slam dunk competition? Man, they could come up with something absolutely amazing. The Memphis Grizzlies 41-19 in 4th. The Denver Nuggets 41-22 in 5th, just a game and a half back of Memphis. The Golden State Warriors 35-28 in 6th. The Houston Rockets 34-29 in 7th. The Utah Jazz 32-30 in 8th. And here's where it gets a little dicey. The Lakers are 32-31, just a game and a half back of Utah. 2 games back in Houston, 3 back at Golden State. The Lakers could get probably as high as 6th. And that's about it. So, if you're a Lakers fan, who do you want to place? Where do you want to place, and who do you want to play? If you get 8th, you're playing probably the Spurs, unless Oklahoma City, can somehow come back into 1st, which they're only a game and a half back, so it's definitely possible. But I just cannot see the San Antonio Spurs losing that number 1 spot. Who do you want to play? The Spurs, the Thunder, or the Clippers? For travel reasons, you definitely want to play the Clippers. You're not going to get too tired. There isn't going to be much jet lag. At least I hope there wouldn't be much jet lag. There's not going to be much of a drive, busing, training, depending on what they do. You're not going to be able to use the travel excuse if you play the Clippers. Same arena, for those who don't know, that the Clippers and the Lakers share the same arena. They're at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, obviously. And they also share there with the Kings as well from Los Angeles, the hockey team. Me as a Lakers fan, we match well against the Thunder. We beat them just a couple weeks ago. So we match well against the Thunder. We match okay with the Clippers. It's just, man, the Clippers are good. Do you really want to play the Clippers in a first-round match? The Clippers have a lot to prove. The Thunder really don't. The Thunder made it to the NBA Finals last year. They don't have much to prove. I mean, yeah, they want to come back and they want to, be right back there in the NBA Finals and all, but who do you really want to play in the first round? The San Antonio Spurs have a little bit to prove with their age, meaning that, oh, hey, I can still play even though I'm, 70 years old. But the Lakers match perfectly with the Spurs. But you don't want to squeak in at 8th, because the Lakers are not going to get 8th spot. They will pass Houston for at least 7th. And I know the top 3 seeds are subject to change with San Antonio, OKC, and LA. They're subject to change. But, man, I don't really want to play the Thunder in the first round. But I really don't want to play the Clippers. The Clippers definitely have a lot to prove. That's just my opinion, obviously, as a Lakers fan. But I don't want to play the Clippers in the first round, period. Kobe has been absolutely zoned in. The last 21 games, the Lakers are 15-6, beating teams like OKC. In the last 2 games, obviously, as everybody's known, they were down by 25 against New Orleans. Came back and won there in the fourth quarter with an incredible game by Kobe. 108-102. And, of course, against Toronto, they were down by 10 going to the fourth. And they win in overtime 118-116 with Kobe with it game-tying 3 with 5 seconds to go in regulation. And then the game-winning shot with, 8 seconds to go? Kobe's had 40 points and 12 assists in back-to-back games. 40-plus points and 12 assists in back-to-back games. It's never been done in history. Kobe is shooting 47.5% from the field, 34% from beyond the arc. He's averaging 27.8 points per game. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. Dwight Howard and Kobe seem to be getting along. Wow. They just needed the All-Star break, is what Dwight Howard said. And talking about Kobe, he says he's a guy that doesn't care about anything else but winning and how you play on the court. Paraphrasing, obviously. But it seems like Dwight Howard and Kobe have gotten along quite a bit better since the All-Star break. But that could change in an instant. Who knows? 19 games left for LA, playing teams like Chicago at home, in Indiana, at home against Dallas, at home against, or on the road against LA, but they're technically at home, but they're on the road. In San Antonio, at home against San Antonio, at home against Houston, at Portland. It's funny, their last game of the season against Houston, it could come down to that game as to who's going to get 7th, 8th, or 6th. Who knows? It's pretty crazy what it's looking like, but the Lakers have definitely turned it around. Now, of note, Amari Stoudemire of the Knicks, out 6 weeks with a knee injury. The Knicks are sitting in third at 37-22, half game back Indiana for second. Just an interesting tidbit there of trivia knowledge there for you as we wrap up the NBA segment. Obviously, March Madness coming around the corner. Duke and North Carolina playing right now as we speak. As I speak. You guys may be speaking, I don't know. Michigan Wolverines are going to get into the playoffs. Excuse me, not the playoffs. What am I thinking? The playoffs. Where am I at? It's been a long day, folks. They're going to get into the tournament, March Madness. They should have at least a number 2 seed. At least a number 2 seed in their bracket. So they should easily make it to the Sweet 16. No problem. No sweat. But there's a lot of teams out there that are definitely going to cause problems for the teams that are, quote, expected to win. There will be problems. Look at Georgetown, man. They absolutely spanked Syracuse today, which was not really much of a shock, seeing how Georgetown's in the top 10. Syracuse is just out of it. But Syracuse is a good team this year. So they're a good team that's expected to win, you would think. But they got creamed today and only scored 39 points in the game. Gonzaga was playing just before we went on the air. We're going to have to get a score update for that one. When we come back, the NHL, the streak is over at 24 points, 24 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. Their record on the season right now, 21-1-3. 45 points, an 8-point lead on Anaheim. And in the East, they have they have a 10-point lead on anybody out of the East. So the Blackhawks are definitely still the best team in the league. But they lose to Colorado 6-2. And when we come back, we'll get into the NHL and later the Vancouver Canucks. You got it live, the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network.
The Anchor Radio Network is your home for March Madness beginning March 21st with the first 4 play-in games, and then all the madness begins starting on the 22nd with the pregame show and the 23rd getting into the games. March Madness lives right here on the Anchor Radio Network. You are listening to the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. And now your host, Caleb Turner.
We're back live on the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. March 9th, 2013. I have no teeth. The last couple segments here on the broadcast for today, and we have news to be able to report to you that the Duke Blue Devils have knocked off North Carolina in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Duke, definitely the number 1 seed in the ACC going into their tournament. And Duke, definitely one of the best teams in the NCAA right now. A lot of upsets, though, today. mean, look at New Mexico losing. There's a lot of teams that are going to be making the playoffs. Playoffs, they did it again. Making the tournament. Did they really make the tournament? Reportedly, Boise State, my favorite college, is going to have a team making the tournament. Reportedly. They're known for their football, but hey, I mean, if they can get a basketball team in the tournament, hey, I may actually pick them. I don't know. I'll have to check out their team and see what they are doing. Washington lost today, which was tough. The Huskies of Washington, that was tough. Losing to their conference rivals, UCLA. But that wasn't really expected that they were going to beat UCLA. UCLA, a much better team and ranked in the top 25. So, but you look out. I mean, Miami, Florida looks good. Indiana looks all right. Duke looks unbelievable. Gonzaga looks unbeatable. And Michigan is kind of hanging around there. They're somewhere in that vicinity of the unbeatable, unbelievable, all right stage. They're somewhere in there. But I think Michigan will do just fine in the tournament and better make the Elite Eight because, well, they better. But what is going to be the story this year? What is going to be the Cinderella story for this year's March Madness? Who is going to be the team that shocks everybody? Because every year, there's always at least one team that just shocks everybody. Like, you guys made it this far. Last year, I think it was the University of Ohio making it to the Sweet 16 and almost beating, was it North Carolina? Almost beating whoever they played. I think they actually got jobbed, but no shock. That's absolutely no shock. Anyways, moving into the NHL segment that we do every week. The Chicago Blackhawks 24-game point streak comes to an end of at least getting a point in 24 consecutive games to the Colorado Avalanche 6-2 loss at the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado. So Chicago gets their first loss of regulation this year in their 25th game of the season. Wow, what a year. Just past the midway point and they finally lose. So, I guess they could miss the playoffs. They'd have to lose every game now. Which is possible. Could happen, but I think what you're going to see out of that game, everything that's going to be the domino effect after that game, the Colorado Avalanche are going to be absolutely unbelievable now. They're going to use that game as incredible momentum. And I'm telling you, the Vancouver Canucks better look out. Colorado isn't in the top 11 in the West right now. They aren't. But you look out for Colorado. I think Colorado is going to make a huge run. And look out Vancouver. Now, I know Minnesota is closer, but I mean, man, you beat the number one team in the league. And especially beating a team that hasn't lost yet in the regular season in regulation. If that doesn't give you momentum, I don't know what's going to. But boy, I'll tell you, the Colorado Avalanche are going to be a much different team. And on the other hand, on the flip side, the Chicago Blackhawks, I think, in my opinion, are going to be a different team. I think this one loss is going to mean a lot in the long run. And let's just say this. The Chicago Blackhawks are going to have the Anaheim Ducks quacking up their backside. Let's just say that. Look out, Chicago. The Ducks are on the move. From the East to the West, the Boston Bruins, 16-3-3, 35 points. Unfortunately, the Bruins are first in the East, third in the league. That's very, very unfortunate that Montreal had to drop a couple of games and get dropped down to the fourth seed. Man, I'll tell you, that Northeast division is stacked. I mean, they're stacked. Buffalo is, they're kind of hanging around. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. With the firing of Lindy Ruff, I still think that was a bad decision. I know they did not have a good year, but, I mean, come on, man. Lindy Ruff. Nobody saw that move coming. At least I didn't think I don't think anybody did. Maybe they saw some changes being made. I just didn't think it was the coach. That's just my opinion. Second place in the East, Pittsburgh Penguins, 16-8-0. They haven't lost a game yet in overtime or a shootout. I know they were going to overtime tonight against Toronto, who hasn't lost an overtime or a shootout either. So something had to give in that game, that 32 points. Carolina Hurricanes, 14-9-1 at 29 points. Montreal in 4th. 5th, Toronto at 30 points. Ottawa's in 6th at 30. Like I said, the Northeast Division is stacked. Boston, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa, all in the top 6. Like, wow. So if Buffalo could somehow turn it around, man, you could have 5 teams from one division. All 5 teams in one division making the playoffs. Wouldn't that be crazy? You'd have at least one inter-division matchup in the playoffs. And potentially in the future rounds, you would have a division matchup. And right now, you got Montreal and Toronto playing each other, with Montreal having the home ice. But really, there isn't much of a home ice scenario with the Montreal-Toronto-Ottawa situation. Carolina and Ottawa would play each other right now if the playoffs started today. That's kind of funny. Pittsburgh would play New Jersey. Boston would play the Rangers. Wow, that would be a series. Now, get this. The Winnipeg Jets are on the edge by 1 point. 12-11-1. At 25 points, just one behind the Rangers for 8th place there in the East. So you could have all 4 Canadian teams in the East making the playoffs. And right now, you only have 1 Canadian team in the West making the playoffs. And obviously, Calgary and Edmonton, yeah, it's not a good situation there. Moving back to the West, Anaheim obviously in 2nd, like we said. Chicago obviously in 1st. Vancouver, we're going to get to the Canucks in a minute. They're in 3rd. St. Louis in 4th. Detroit in 5th. And by the way, you got 3 teams right there, 3, 4, and 5, all tied with 28 points. But because of the division, Vancouver's got it pretty much locked up. San Jose in 6th with 27 points. LA in 7th with 26. Dallas in 8th at 26. Look at that Pacific Division. Man! All 5 teams in the top 9. And potentially with the way it's working right now, let's say somehow Detroit drops down out of the playoffs, or St. Louis does. You've got all 5 teams of the Pacific Division making the playoffs. So the best 2 divisions right now in hockey are the Northeast and the Pacific. Phoenix with 25 points, Nashville 25 points, Minnesota with 24 points. Obviously, Phoenix, Nashville, Minnesota out of the playoffs. They're in the 9, 10, and 11 spot. But they're right on the edge. Minnesota just 2 points out. Phoenix and Nashville just 1 point out. So they got a chance. Sidney Crosby leading the league with 39 points on the year. Stamkos with 35. Chris Kunitz with 31. Martin St. Louis with 31. And Thomas Vanek with 29. Goal scoring leader Steven Stamkos with 18. I think everybody expects that. Jeff Carter from LA with 16 goals on the year. Wow. Who saw that coming? James Neal with 15. Chris Kunitz with 14. John Tavares with 14. There are your point leaders and goal scoring leaders in the NHL. My team right now, at this part in the season, every week I pick a team that looks dangerous. They look very, very, very sneaky. The Ottawa Senators are right there on the edge. They aren't the sneakiest team, but they're my on-the-edge sneaky team. Carolina Hurricanes are my sneaky team right now. Why? Southeast Division leader at 14-9-1. They got a 4-point lead on Winnipeg for the division lead. Where's Tampa Bay gone? And for that matter, where's Washington? Carolina Hurricanes division leaders right now, and they're only 3 back of Pittsburgh, 6 back of Boston. So you got a team right there that seems to be getting it together. Could turn it around. If you haven't seen the Mark Stahl puck to the eye, I think you need to watch it. I think you need to watch it for one reason, and that's to be able to get your opinion on wearing a visor and voting for players to wear visors in games. You talk about a gruesome incident. That was freaky. And we had a freaky incident happen here in Vancouver with Manny Malhotra, and that's ruined his career. Puck to the eye, Had to have an eye surgery, has had eye problems. It affected his game. He's not in the lineup anymore. He's got injuries, and his career's done. Marc Staal, an incredible hockey player, his career could be over. Although he is expected to make a full recovery, that's what they said about Manny Malhotra, and look at Manny Malhotra. Just a thought for the wise. I would watch the video just to be able to get your opinion and to be able to cast your vote. And it's not like the fans is going to make a big difference, but I'm just saying. Just so you are aware of what's happening in the NHL with visors. And another thing, fights. You got a guy in the NHL game there. I can't remember what team, what name it was. They may come back to me, but got in a fight and basically got TKO'd. I think it was Kyle McLaren who TKO'd whoever it was. First game in his first fight in the NHL, and he gets TKO'd. He's got a concussion. He's out of the lineup, probably long term. So, you know, it's an interesting scenario. I mean, I'm not saying take fighting out of the game. I'm just mentioning this. If you want to see another video, if you want to cast your vote on the fighting issue, check out that video. A lot of things right now to talk about, though, in the NHL. We'll get to the Canucks after the break. Last segment is next. The Vancouver Canucks. We save the best/worst for last. When we come back, the Canucks, it's the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network.
The Anchor Radio Network is looking for people who will volunteer to be on the Caleb Turner Talk Show as an expert in a field of their choice. You can contact our soundman, Bob, for more details on becoming an expert on the Anchor Radio Network's Caleb Turner Talk Show.
We're back live on the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. Last segment of the March 9th, 2013 edition. Wrapping it up with the Vancouver Canucks, who right now are the worst team in hockey. That is coming from a diehard Canucks fan. In me. I am a diehard Canucks fan. Like, I'm diehard. Period. Diehard. Where is the defense? Where is the offense? Where is the production? Where is everything right now coming from Vancouver? They're getting the shots away? Okay. Where are the goals? Where are the ripping the twine in the back of the net? Why is it that Minnesota, everybody's saying, oh, Minnesota is sneaking up on Vancouver? Why is that the case? Unbelievable. Their last 6 games, 1 win. 1 win in 6 games they've lost in their last 6 games. 3 in regulation. 2 have been in non-regulation there in OT and shootout in their last back-to-back games. They've lost 3 straight again. The Canucks haven't even hit 30 points in the standings, and they've played 23 games. How is that the case? 3-3-4 in their last 10 games. Just unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And it's horrendous with all this talk about, oh, Schneider and Luongo. And honestly, Schneider has stunk in these last several games. You know, but it's not really his fault that the Canucks are stinking it up right now and are the worst team in the hockey. It's not his problem. They can't score. As a goalie, you can only do so much in stopping the puck. You can't score goals like your other fellow teammates can. And if your teammates can't score the goals, you aren't going to win. Period. Especially if it gets to a shootout, you definitely aren't going to win. Because, guys, when they get to the shootout, they stink. They can't score goals in a shootout on one-on-one on a breakaway. The goalies can't make saves one-on-one on a breakaway. The Canucks are not going to be contenders. These shootout losses where they just get 1 point, it's going to affect them in the long run and where they place in the standings. Okay, they may still win the Northwest Division. They'll be the 3rd seed. They'll get home ice in the first round. They'll win the first round. In the second round, it's going to be tough against Anaheim. It just will be. I'm tired of saying, well, at least we got 1 point. And I'm hearing the same beef from everybody else that I talk to. I'm tired of just getting 1 point. I'm tired of saying, well, at least we got a point tonight. At least we salvaged the game and got a point for the standings. No! Canucks are one of the most elite teams in hockey. They should be getting 2 points every game. And if you are going to lose the game, then you get it to overtime in a shootout. Come on. Losing in overtime to Columbus. Losing to San Jose in a shootout. Losing to Calgary in regulation. Only one of those teams right now as we speak are in the playoffs. One team. The other two are in the basement in the Western Conference. They beat LA 5-2. They lost to Phoenix 4-2, who right now are not in the playoffs. And of course, as we know, they lost to the Wings 8-3, got blown out, got their pants kicked. And right now, that is the turning point of the season. An 8-3 shellacking at the Joe. Right now, that's the turning point. Right now, Canuck fans are ashamed to say they're Canuck fans. 3-3-4 in their last 10. Everybody's saying, oh, well, you know, the Canucks are still third in the West. They're 3-3-4 in their last 10. That's embarrassing. And they play in Minnesota tomorrow night. And right now, Alain Vigneault has a very, very tough decision to make. Luongo or Schneider. And we all know Luongo is horrible against the Wild, especially at the XL Energy Center. And we all know that Corey Schneider has stunk in his last several games. He's lost his last 3 games. I don't care if they're in overtime. I don't care if they're in a shootout. And I don't care if he hasn't had the goal production in front of him. He's lost the games. Counts as a loss on his behalf. So right now, Alain Vigneault has a very, very tough decision to make. And boy, I'll tell you, tomorrow night, 5 o'clock our time. Whew, boy. The Canucks are going to be put to the test. And I'm shocked to say that the Columbus Blue Jackets put them to the test back on Thursday night. I'm shocked. But boy, I'll tell you, Columbus is on fire right now. They beat Detroit tonight 3-0. Look out for the Blue Jackets making the playoffs on a huge run now like Chicago. I don't know what to say. Corey Schneider with a 2.52 GA and a .913 save percentage. He's 6-4-3 with 1 shutout. Luongo is 5-2-3 with 2 shutouts with a .912 save percentage and a 2.19 goals against average. And really the only blemish on Luongo's behalf is the 8-3 shellacking to Detroit. So what do you say after that? You take out the Detroit game, and Luongo is definitely the number 1 goaltender right now for the Vancouver Canucks. And really, it's just because of that one game against Detroit is why Corey Schneider's had the last 3 games of starting. And is it 4 straight? I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter. All I know is Corey Schneider's gotten the beef of the games right now with 13. Luongo's had 10. Schneider's goals against is 2.52. Luongo's is 2.19. And that's even with giving up 8 goals against Detroit. He still has a 2.19 goals against average. How come he's not starting? You know, I'm going to be shocked if Luongo gets the start tomorrow. I will be shocked. Part of me will be shocked. Part of me won't be. That's the part of me that you're never going to be able to take away from me. That's kind of funny. There will always be a shock side. There will always be a not-so-shock side. But it's too bad that the Canucks are in this position as to who's going to be goalie and who's not going to be goalie against Minnesota tomorrow. I don't know what to say. What else is there to say? I mean, come on. It's embarrassing. Plus note, though, Henrik Sedin's plus 13. Just 4 back of the league lead. Both Sedins have 23 points. Daniel Sedin with 8 goals. And what's happened to Zach Kassian? I mean, like 5 goals in his first 10 games. He hasn't scored since. Bieksa still hurt. Kessler hurt. I don't know. I've been saying this for quite a while. This season is really an excusable season because of the lockout. But, oh man, I mean, the Canucks had an opportunity to win a cheap cup this year. An opportunity to win the Stanley Cup cheaply. They are not going to win the Stanley Cup this year. And in my eyes, it's not going to be Chicago. It's not going to be the Anaheim Ducks. It's not going to be the Boston Bruins. And it's not going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. So who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Getting rid of those 5 teams right off the bat. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? And all 5 of those teams are going to make the playoffs. So out of the 11 teams that are going to make the playoffs, besides those 5, who's going to win the Stanley Cup? That's a question that's going to be answered in the next couple of weeks. I don't have the answer tonight, obviously, because really anything can happen. But that wraps it up for today's broadcast, March 9th, 2013. Next week, March 16th, 2013, we will have the broadcast right here on the Anchor Radio Network, the Caleb Turner Talk Show. Thanks for joining us today. Talk a little NBA, NHL, and of course Vancouver. Hey, the Whitecaps are 2-0. Looking pretty good. They got a couple of new players, several new players added from last year. Of course, the big injury there to Jay DeMeritt. And that's too bad. He's out basically for the rest of the year. Well, until the end of the year, basically, in the last couple of games. Was it an ACL? No, an ankle injury? One of those two. But he injured it there in his first game last week. And this week, they beat the Columbus Crew 2-1. The Whitecaps getting off to a 2-0 start. Wow. Looking good, too. The BC Place was rocking today after the 2-1 win there. MLS Whitecaps FC. I'm hoping to go to a game this year. I want to go see the Whitecaps play at BC Place. I've heard it's a good atmosphere. I'm sure it is. That wraps it up for today. The Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. We'll see you next week. Stay safe. Have a good weekend. It's supposed to rain, so I don't know what you're going to do tomorrow, but Lakers and the Bulls tomorrow on ESPN ABC. It's going to be an incredible game. The Lakers have a lot to prove because they've been beaten up on all these teams that, aren't going to make the playoffs, but yet they've been having difficulties against them, but yet they come back and win them. So tomorrow will be a big game and a big test, playing against a playoff team in the Bulls. They're, what are they, 5th in the East? I think 5th in the East, 4th? 5th in the East, just behind the Brooklyn Nets. So a big game tomorrow for the Lakers. The Canucks play, of course, tomorrow against the Wild. In my eyes, this is where you're going to see whether or not the Canucks are going to be good or not. They've had their bad streak. Okay, 3-3-4. It's time to turn it around right now, period. End of sentence. If they do not win tomorrow night, done. It's over. Season is accursed. It's done. Don't even worry about it. Throw in the towel. Make all the trades that you want to make. And that's another thing. Just before we go, I forgot to mention this. Mike Gillis has yet to shock me. He needs to make a trade that shocks the fire out of the Canuck fans. Like last year what he did with Hudson, I disagree with that trade, but he got Kassian. He got 5 goals on him in the first 10 games. He needs to do another trade that shocks people. I'm not saying trade away Burroughs or Raymond or anything like that, but do something that surprises us. Caleb Turner Talks on the Anchor Radio Network. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
You have been listening to a presentation of the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. Tune in every week for a new Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network.